Hi, this is Sudhir and welcome to ASP .NET Validations tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to discuss about some of the validation controls like required field validator, compare validator, range validator, regular expression validator, and validation summary. These are the 5 validation controls which helps you to do some validations for your ASP .NET fields. It may be text boxes, radio buttons, or some other controls. If the user enters an invalid value, we can validate the inputs using these controls. So let's go in details about it. Starting with common properties, all these validation controls will have some common properties like control to validate, display, error message, set focus on error, and validation group. So control to validate is a property which has to be set for all the validation controls so that these validation controls will validate the inputs of that specific control. For example, if you have a text box named as username, so if you are adding some validation control to that, this validation control should have a property called control to validate. Next, display is used to say how the error message has to be displayed. And the third property is error message, where you can enter your custom message which will be displayed when an error happened. That means if any input value is failed, then the validation control will display this message to the user saying that your username is invalid, or here you have to enter your username, or your age should be between 10 and 50, like that. Based on your custom messages will be displayed here. Next property is set focus on error. This is if there is any validation fails, then that control will be displayed or highlighted to the user saying that there is an error in this control, so you have to change the input value in that. And finally, the property here is a validation group. This is a logical grouping of multiple validation controls. If you have more than one validation control in a validation control in a web form, so you can group multiple controls into a group so that when you click on a button, all the validations and the validations grouped for that button will be displayed. So we can go into detail of these properties in the demo next, followed by let's go into required field validator. So required field validator is a basic validator which ensures that all the fields are not empty. So I'll show you a demo of this required field validator first, then we can go for the next validations. I have my Visual Studio ready here. I'm using Visual Studio Professional 2013. I'm going to create a new project here. I'm going to select Visual C# as the language and ASP.NET Web Application as a project. I'm going to name this as validation controls example, and it's going to be saved in C Sudhir ASP examples folder. I'm going to click on OK. And the template I want is empty because I want to create my web form, and on that I want to show the demo. Here is my solution explorer which has only web.config file, and there is no web form in this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my project and I'm going to add a new item which is a web form, and the name of that is webform1.aspx. I'm going to leave this default name. So you can see this is an empty web page. In that I'm going to design a table here. I'm going to insert a table. I need 4 columns here and more number of rows because I'm going to add more fields here to show all the validation controls example in the same page. I'm going to name this as a sign up page. I'm going to take some forms like username, password, confirm password, email ID, phone number, age. I'm going to add one more row for this just by simply right click on the row, insert row below. I need one more row, so I'm going to click on this, insert row below. So in the slides, so this is the demo which I want to show. It's a sign up page. It is going to have username, password, confirm password, age, email ID, phone number, course and gender are the fields I need. So the same fields I'm going to create in my web form. So username, password, confirm password. I need age here, so I'm going to insert one more row above this time. I'm going to add age here, email ID, phone number, followed by course, gender, and these are the fields I'm going to use. And I'm going to add multiple text boxes to the web form because user is going to use these text boxes to enter his inputs. So the first text box is txt. Text box 1 is by default name. I'm going to go to the properties of this. Shortcut for the properties is function F4. I'm going to change the ID so that it will be easy for me to set the validation controls for that. So based on the standards, I'll be adding txt as the prefix for that, followed by the field name, which is username here. One more text box is added, and in the properties I'm going to change its ID to txt password. I'm going to add one more text box for confirm password field. I'm going to change it to txt password. This time txt cfpass, confirm password. For the age also, I want to give a text box in which user is going to enter his age. So I'm going to name it as txt age. The next text box is going to be txt email ID. One more text box for phone number, which can be named as txt phone number. For the course, I want to change the control. This time I want to go for drop down list control. And in this I want to add multiple items by simply click on edit items to add multiple items to that. You can click on add button and you can add multiple items to that. First item I want to be as select. That's the default item. When user selects nothing, the item is named as select. That means user hasn't selected anything if the select is there displayed on the drop down list. The second one item is going to be .NET. As I have named it as course field, I'm going to enter different courses here. It may be .NET, Java, PHP or C++. And I'm going to click on OK so that all the fields are added into this drop down list. For gender, I'll be going for other control called radio button list. For here, the same as drop down list, I can click on edit items here so that I can add multiple items to that. For each item, there will be a property called text where I can add some value to that. As it's a gender, I'm going to add male as the text for the first item and female as the text for the second item, and I'm going to click on OK. And they are by default arranged in vertical order. I want to make it horizontal, so that I'm going to go to its properties. Two things I have to change is its ID, which is RB, which stands for radio button, L, radio button list, gender, and the other is repeat direction, which is vertical. I want to make it as horizontal. Double click on it to turn it into horizontal. And one more thing I missed is I haven't renamed this drop down list one. I want to change this ID to DDL drop down list course. So my fields are ready, and a user can enter his inputs or select some items like course or gender using these fields. And finally, user is going to click on a button called sign up. The text of that is going to be sign up, and the ID of that is going to be BTN sign up. So I'm done with my design of the fields and its IDs, so that they looks like this. I'm going to see that in the browser so that you can see the output, how they are going to display. You can see this is how it is displayed. Number of fields like username, password, confirm password, age, email ID, phone number, course and gender are there. When user clicks on sign up, the code inside that click event is fired. You can see the page is refreshed. Even though user doesn't enter anything, you can see the sign up event is getting fired. So I want to add validation controls for this. That means I want to add some required field validator for this, so that if a user enters, it doesn't enter anything, it will not allow the user to click on the sign up button. The page will not get refreshed. So what I'll do is, as I have already gone through required field validator, I'm going to explain how the required field validator works. So I'm going to drag and drop required field validator in the last column, the fourth column which is available, and I'm going to bind it to the control called username. So first one is ID. I'm going to change, it's a required field validator. For username, I'm going to change its ID as RFV username. And first important thing is, there is a common property called control to validate, which has to be set so that this validation control is going to bind with the txt username, so that if text username text is empty, this is going to show its error message. It will not allow the user to sign up if this text field is empty, because it's a required field validator. And error message is going to be enter username. You can write whatever you want. I'm going to write my custom message saying that enter username. And if you want, we can change the fore color as well. As now it's in black, I'm going to change this to red color. You can see the error message is in red. I'm going to show you the output in the browser. Click on sign up. So what happens is, here you can see, as it's a Visual Studio 2013, by default when validations are added, this unobstructed validation mode requires some jQuery. It's again sense to something it's saying. So to solve this, in the configuration settings you have to add this. So what I'm going to do is, the validation settings of unobstructed validation mode values is changed to none by this, with these settings. So for this, what you have to do is, you have to go to web.config file. In the configuration you have to add these settings. So with these settings, that error will be solved. That mode will be turned off. Now I'll be showing the error, showing the output again. This time you can't see that error. I'm going to click on sign up. You can see the page is not refreshed because that event of sign up button is not yet fired. Because the reason is, I have a required field validator control here, which will not allow the user to sign up because he hasn't entered anything here. He has to enter something, so that the validation control will allow the user to enter into the sign up. You can see now the page is getting refreshed. That's how a required field validator works. So what I'll do is, I'll add this required field validator to all the controls, because no control should be empty. Everything is required. So every control value is required, so I'm going to add required field validator for all the fields, and I'm going to change it as RFV password is the property I need, and some more common properties I need are control to validate. I'm going to bind that to txt password so that it will bind with that, and error message is enter password. If the password is not entered, it will not allow the user to sign up. And one more thing is forecolor to red. Followed by next one, confirm password. Error message is enter confirm password. RFV confirm password, and control to validate to txt confirm password. Forecolor to red. Done with this. Next, moving for age. Required field validator age. Error message enter age. You should enter age, otherwise you can't sign up. Control to validate to its text box age. Enter in txt age text box. And finally the forecolor to red. Same with email ID. I'm going to change the error message first. Enter your email ID. Forecolor will be red in color. Control to validate will be txt email ID. And required field validator is RFV email ID. Next, I'm going for the phone number. RFV phone number. Control to validate txt phone number. Forecolor to red. Error message enter phone number. Done with this. These two are little different. These are not text boxes, so what happens is I'm going to add enter. Not going to add enter. Select a course because it's a drop down. I'm going to add the common property control to validate to drop down list course which is there available, so you can select it, and required field validator is course. So let's see the output, and then if there is any modification to this control, we can do it there. I'm going to change it to red. Error message is select the gender. You have to select the gender, otherwise will not allow you to sign up. We are going to make your color to red. Required field validator gender. And control to validate is RBL gender. So I want to save this using save all. I can see this output of this in the browser. Now you can see when I click on sign up, you can see all the things are error messages are displayed for everything. That means enter username because it's empty. If I enter some name and I move on to the next one, automatically the validation is removed. The error message is removed. Password something ABC followed by confirm password, which should be same. Age is 12. You can see I have entered something, so zeer@gmail.com. Phone number 123456789 10-digit number. Course. You can see course, for the course it is not displayed even earlier. If I clicked on select, that means it is not yet selected. But for course it works in a different way, so we have to handle course in a different way. That means if the select item is selected in the drop down, it should show that select a course. And finally this is working. When you select one of that, it's working. So the observations I found here is if .NET is selected, the error message shouldn't be displayed, but if select is selected, that initial value, if it is select, the error message should be displayed. For this, what we have to do is, for this select course required field validator, there is one more field called initial value. There we have to give a value. If this value is there in that item, that is if DDL course is select, which is matching with its initial value, it will throw an error saying that select some value, select course, otherwise it will not allow. And one more thing is, you can see now select course is also displayed. If you select .NET, the error is gone, and if you select again you can see select course is coming up because it is matching with its initial value, which is there only for a drop down list control. And one more observation I found is ABC is visible. Normally for passwords, ABC shouldn't be visible. For that, what you can do is go to that text box. Here it's text password, and you have to change property. One property will be there, which is text mode. By default is single line. You have to change that to password. Also the same case with the confirm password. Change its text mode from single line to password. Save it and view this in browser. Now what you can see is this password and confirm password text mode will be in password format. That means which is secure and user can't see this. You can see that this is happening, but sign up will not happen because the other validations are there. So this is about required field validator, which can be handled for text fields and also drop down and radio button like this. Let's move on to the next validation control. So we have gone through this common properties and we have completed required field validator demo, followed by compare validator. That means it is a validator which is used to compare two fields. For example, there is a field called A and B. So you can use two properties for this, like control to validate has to be given to A control, and control to compare of this property will be given to B control, so that if both are matched, it will allow the user to fire some events. Otherwise, it will not allow you to sign up in this example. In our example, we have two controls like password and confirm password. So the control to validate is going to be or password, and control to compare is going to be confirm password. If both the values are matched, it will allow the user to fire the event. So I'm going to implement the same compare validator in my example. So what I'm going to do is, in the validations you can see compare validator is there, which I can drag and drop beside this confirm password. And I'm going to change its ID to CV CFPWD compare validator confirm password. It's going to have two properties here. Required field validator has only control to validate, but it has two properties here. Control to validate is this password, txt password. Control to compare is it will compare the value with confirm password. And if they both are not matched, then the error message will be displayed in red color, and the error message displayed is password mismatch. So this is the error message, it will be displayed. You can see in the same line I have added it. Now we can see the output of compare validator, how it's going to work. First, when I click on sign up, you can see all the required field validators will be displayed. We want to write some names, A, B, C, followed by A, B, C. Both are same. Age as 23. Email ID sudhir@gmail.com. Phone number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 9. Some 10-digit number. This course has to be selected. For example, Java, and the gender is selected as male. You can see all the required are gone. But there is one more validator on this page called compare validator, which is comparing your password and confirm password fields. If there is a mismatch in this, first is ABC followed by some other random password. If there is a mismatch, you can see password mismatch is fired and you can't sign up with that. So for that, what you have to do is you have to enter A, B, C, same value. Then it will allow you to sign up. You can see page is refreshed. Every time when the page is refreshed, you can see passwords ABC, ABC. Every time after a sign up, they'll be gone because they're in secure mode now. They are in password type is not single line. They are in password mode, which is secure. After every refresh of page, they will be erased. So now one more observation I found is ABC, ABCD. There is a password mismatch. This validator is not displaying its error message right beside my control. That means I want this password mismatch text message to be displayed beside my confirm password. This happens because there is a property for this which is called display. By default it is static. That means wherever I have designed, it will be displayed in that location. I have to make it to dynamic, and also this before that we have one more validator, make that static to dynamic. So whenever these two controls are having display as dynamic, they'll be exchanging their positions based on the error messages which are displaying on the web page. Now I'm going to see the output of this web page. I'm going to create some password mismatch error. You can see ABC is there and the second nothing is there. You can see password mismatch. When both errors are there, they'll be displayed like this because there is no other chance. But if I have entered something, then error enter confirm password will be out, and you can see only one message is there. If only one message is there, it's going to occupy the leftmost position like all other controls we have. You can see the password mismatch is occupying the leftmost position because both the controls in that line having a display as dynamic. You can use that property as well. So this is about a compare validator. Let's move on to our slides and we can go for the next one. So these are the two properties which I have used: control to validate and control to compare. The type is the type of the data you use. The next one we can go for is a range validator. It ensures that value in the field falls in the given range. So for example, we have age, a text box where user enters whatever they want, and the required field validator will allow them to sign up because something is entered. But I can add one more validator to that field called as range validator, which is going to have two properties called minimum value and maximum value. So if the value entered by the user falls between minimum and maximum value, between these two, then it will allow the user to sign up, otherwise it will not allow to sign up. And one more property is type, which is the type of data which you are going to match. If it is a numeric, we have to make it as int so that the number is falling in between that range. So I'm going to use a range validator now in my example. For my age field, you can see age field is already there. Here is the range validator, which I'm going to drag and drop here. Now I'm going to set some common properties which you already know, that is range validator RV age. Control to validate is it's going to control txt age. It's going to have two new properties here because it is a range validator. Minimum value, I want minimum as 18, the maximum as 45. So it should be between 18 to 45. If it is crosses 45 or it's less than 18, it will not accept. And the forecolor is going to be red again. Click on OK. Error message is going to be invalid age. Age is entered, but it's an invalid age. Here we have to make display to dynamic, and also for the before that we have one more required field validator, which is RFV age. I want to make that display to dynamic as well, so that they will adjust their positions automatically. Now I'm going to show the output for this range validator, which will validate the value inside the age text box. By default, all the controls will be displayed with some error messages. I'm going to enter some name ABC followed by ABC. All the errors are gone. Age. When coming to age, if I enter something, this enter age will go out. But it's an invalid age. You can see it's an invalid age. Valid age is 19 as a valid age. Now the error is gone. 18 is a valid age. But if I give 17, it's an invalid age because the range minimum value is 18 and the maximum value is 45. If I give 40, it's a valid age. 45 is a valid age. If I give 46, I cross the limit. Then it's again an invalid age. This is how a range validator works in ASP.NET. So with this you can control the text value which has to fall in between of minimum and maximum value. And it's working for numbers because for this property, for this range validator, we have seen some property called type string, and int will work fine because it's a numbers here. So type of data, it's numbers is also working fine for that. If you want decimals or something, you can change the type. Double, date, currency can also be used if you want to validate some other things. String works for numbers and also for the age, but it's recommended to have an type as number so that it will be accurate. Let's see the output once again. With lots of validation errors. Here again, ABC followed by ABC. Age is 12. It's an invalid age. 18 is a valid age. 45. 145 is an invalid age, and 45 is a valid age. So it's working fine. So this is how a range validator works. Back to the slides, and let's move on for the next validator. So the next validator comes here is a regular expression validator, which ensures that the value is matched with a given pattern. Normally this required field validator, compare validator, and age validator will have say different form, different pattern is there. But if you want to go for a complex patterns, like you want the value inside the text box should be a 10-digit number, you are very specific with that. Otherwise the text box value should be an email ID which should contain @ followed by some values, followed by dot, followed by .com, something like that. At that time you have to use regular expression validators. So this here I have given an example of 10-digit validation, and I'll explain this how it's going to validate your phone number. This is one of the pattern which I follow, and there are different patterns which you will find in Google where you can search for patterns for validations. So here this cap is for starting off this pattern, and dollar symbol is for ending of the pattern. You have to mention cap at the starting, dollar at the end, and followed by this square braces contains 0-9. That means all the numbers are accepted. If you want to accept only some numbers like 0 to 5, you have to write 0-5. If you want to accept only 7, 8, 9, then you have to write 7-9. If you want ABC, in that you have to write A hyphen B. If you want capital letters of ABC, you have to write capital A hyphen capital B, capital A hyphen capital C for ABC. If you want all capital letters, then you have to go for capital A hyphen capital Z. The next we have flower braces, which is used to mention how many characters you need, the number of digits. Here in this case it's number of digits. So I want to allow only 10 digit number. It should sharp 10 digit number. I don't allow 9 digit number or 11 digit number. So this says that 0 to 9 any number, but it should be a 10 digit number. If you want to write a pattern for 8 or 9 or 10 digit numbers, in this flower base you have to write 8 comma 10, so that it will allow 8 digit, 9 digit or 10 digit numbers. So there is a property called validation expression, which allows you to write some pattern there. So now in my example, I have email ID and phone number, which are containing complex patterns. So I have to use regular expressions for this. So what I'm going to do is, there is a control called regular expression validator, which I'm going to drag and drop here beside the email ID. That is, first I'm going to handle the email ID pattern. I'll go down, regular expression validator, REV, email ID is its ID. I'll go for common ones, like I'm going to say it's an invalid email ID. You have entered an invalid email ID. I know that because I have pattern for this. For color is going to be red. Next control to validate is going to be our txt email ID. And finally here comes a new property called validation expression. You can browse here, a lot of inbuilt validations are there. In that you can find internet email address. Here you can see a complex validation expression is written by Visual Studio. You can click on OK to use that internet email address pattern. You can see that is written here. Now what happens is, the value entered in this text box has to be in email format, otherwise it's going to throw an error saying that invalid email ID. It's a validation. One more property has to be added is display. It has to be dynamic, and also for this control required for validator, it has to be dynamic. I'm going to check the output for my email ID field, where you have to enter the email ID and it should have a valid format. Where is the email ID? Here it is throwing an error as enter your email ID. I have entered something, my name. Then it throws one more error saying that it's an invalid email ID because it needs something dot something. It needs something like this. Now we can see the error is gone. If you miss or some email ID syntaxes, it's going to go with email ID, invalid email ID message. That's how an regular expression works for internet email address. Next one more, there is one more where enter phone number, it is asking but it's not checking for whether it's a valid 10 digit number or not. For that also I can use regular expression validator. I'm going to drag and drop regular expression validator here. I'll come down, regular expression validator phone number. I'll start with normal properties like control to validate, text phone number, error message is invalid phone number because it should be a 10 digit number, display should be dynamic, for color should be red, and validation expressions. Here we come. We don't have an inbuilt validation expression for our 10 digit number, so I am going to write it with start with cap and with dollar, in between in the square brace. I'm going to zoom it. In the square brace you have to mention what all you need. I need all the numbers 0 to 9. followed by flower braces, in which how many numbers you need. I need exactly 10-digit number. If it is 8 to 10, I can write 8-10, which means 8-digit number, 9-digit number, 10-digit number is allowed. But here in my case, I need only 10-digit number. I'm going to zoom out. And one more property I want to add is for this validation control, I want to make display to dynamic so that they'll exchange their positions. Here we go, sign up. So you can see in the phone number, it is enter phone number because it's a required field validator. I'm going to enter some number. It is showing invalid phone number now. For making it valid phone number, it has to be a 10-digit number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's a valid one. You can see now the error is gone. If I add one more, you can see one more digit, 11 digits is an invalid phone number. 10 digit is a valid phone number. Again, it's 9 digit again is an invalid phone number. This is how it's going to work. It's exactly a 10-digit phone number. So this is how a regular expression works. You can use inbuilt validations like I have used for email ID. Custom your own, you can write it from phone number, which I have taught you here. Otherwise, you can get it from other websites. Different patterns will be there for different requirements. Let's go back to the slides. After regular expression validator, finally we have validation summary. Validation summary is used to display all the error messages at one place. For example, I have a lot of errors. If I don't enter any valid input here, you can see I'm going to show this in a browser again. When I click on sign up, you can see a lot of error messages are displayed, but they are displayed beside the controls. If you have a web page with a lot of controls and error messages are displayed at different places, it will be very difficult for the user to find them, to understand them. So what happens is you can use one more validation control called validation summary, so that it will display all the error messages at the end of the web page, so that if there is any errors, the list will be displayed at the bottom for the flexibility of a user. So I'm going to drag and drop validation summary to my web page, so that automatically when you drag and drop it, it binds to all the web control, all the validation controls, and right click on this page and you can directly view the browser. No properties are required for this validation summary. Automatically it will display the error messages. You can see when I click on sign up, you can see all the error messages are displayed here, and also at the bottom this is a validation summary for you. All the error messages are displayed. I'm going to change the age validation. It's invalid age. Here you can see when I click on the button, invalid age is displayed. After every click on event, it will update. So I'm going to write some name followed by some password ABC, confirm password ABC, phone number 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 digit number, one more it require, email ID. Now when I click on sign up button, you can see only 3 errors are there. They are listed at the bottom at one go. I can see only 3 errors are here. Summary will be displayed at the bottom. This is how it works. If you want to change the color, same as I did earlier, I have to go for faux color and I have to change color to red. I click view in browser. Sign up. You can see it's in red color. Now you can see when I click on sign up, no control is highlighted. If you want to get that functionality of highlighting a text box which is having a validation error, you have to use another property called focus on error. I'm going to show you. I'm going to add that to this username. Now I'm going to add that to phone number, that you can see the difference between phone number field and a username field. Only for the phone number field I'm going to add a property called, not for this text box, I have to use for that for enter phone number. Validation control will have that property which is called set focus on error. By default it is false. I'm going to make it to true. For enter phone number error, if this error message is displayed, automatically the respective field, that is txt phone number, will be highlighted, so that it will give an alert to the user that you have to enter something here. There is something went wrong with this input. So I'm going to see this browser. Because I can click on sign up, you can see the phone number is highlighted, keeping my cursor there. So because the enter phone number, this validator is having a property called set focus on error. So automatically every time when I click on this, automatically it is highlighted and the cursor will enter inside, so that it will highlight. Oh my goodness. Can I stop this?